breath in this country were the same netas who shouted non-stop from beginning to end of the Prime Minister's speech in the Rajya Sabha. I'd call that a bit of democracy, considering the opposition parties, which is absolutely their right, came together to shout down the Prime Minister, who they accuse of being in cahoots with Gautam Adani. But that's what democracy is, and it definitely isn't dead. Thanks for watching. This is 5 Live. I'm Shiv Aroor. Let's get straight to the headlines first. Prime Minister's fiery counter in the Rajya Sabha amidst non-stop opposition heckling, taunts. Gandhis and Congress over Nehru, says ek akela sab pe bhari.
देख रहा है एक अकेला कितनों को भारी पड़ रहा है, एक अकेला कितनों को भारी पड़ रहा है.
Massive Popular Front of India hate plot busted in Maharashtra. Anti-terror squad of the state thwarts Islam India by 2047 plot by the banned PFI. Valentine's Day gets an all-new twist. Government panel says hug cows on the 14th of February for emotional richness. Day after US shot down Chinese spy balloon, US claims these same balloons breached sovereignty of 5 continents. I have a big India-specific news break coming up at 5:30. Death toll mounts to 15,000 across Turkey and Syria in a series of earthquakes. Rescue operations continue in freezing weather. India Today, the only Indian channel in the quake zone of Turkey.
It's a desperate race against time at this location in Hatay as rescue workers grapple. As you can look around, these are several floors that just collapsed. This, as of now, is a race against time to save lives.
Democracy is dead, said many of these MPs, many of these netas for the last many years of the Modi Sarkar. Democracy is broken, democracy is dying, democracy has been smashed to pieces. Where is our democracy? This is a fascist state. Just take a look for a moment at how things played out in the Rajya Sabha today. Take and listen a little carefully to see whether you can hear the opposition and whether you can hear the chants of democracy. Let's put that sound up so our viewers can hear it.
मिलता था आदरणीय सभापति जी, I call upon honorable आज 11 करोड़ घरों को नल से जल मिल रहा है. भारत ये विज्ञान के विरोधी लोग, ये टेक्नोलॉजी के विरोधी लोग.
I wouldn't say democracy is dead. To me, that actually sounded like precisely the kind of vibrant democracy that we are. Each and every one of those opposition leaders had every right to shout. They had every right to disrupt and create a ruckus in parliament, because that's what a noisy democracy is all about. But let's not forget the hypocrisy of these very same chanters who have every right to do so, saying democracy is dead while shouting down the Prime Minister in the upper house of the world's largest democracy. The Prime Minister's speech today was his second in the last 24 hours. This was in the Rajya Sabha, yesterday was in the Lok Sabha. Today the Prime Minister made a shorter speech, but it was even more combative. Take a look at some of the highlights.
देश देख रहा है एक अकेला कितनों को भारी पड़ रहा है, एक अकेला कितनों को भारी पड़ रहा है. अरे नारे बोलने के लिए भी उनको बदल करना पड़ता है. जो भी ये बोलता है घंटे भर से आवाज की जवाब देना. आदरणीय सभापति जी, एक कन्विक्शन के कारण चला कुछ करने के लिए निकला हुआ हूं। और इसलिए ये राजनीतिक खेल खेलने वाले लोग, उनके अंदर वो हौसला नहीं है, वो ढूंढ रहे हैं, बचने का रास्ता खोज रहे हैं। यहाँ ये भी कहा गया कि सरकार की योजनाओं को उनके नामों को लेकर के आपत्ति उठाई। कुछ लोगों को ये भी परेशानी है कि नामों में कुछ संस्कृत टच है, बताइए, इसकी भी परेशानी। आदरणीय सभापति जी, मैंने किसी अखबार में पढ़ा था, मैं कोई वेरीफाई तो नहीं किया है, और रिपोर्ट कह रही थी 600 जितनी सरकारी योजनाएं सिर्फ गांधी नेहरू परिवार के नाम पे है। आदरणीय सभापति जी, किसी कार्यक्रम में अगर नेहरू जी के नाम का उल्लेख नहीं हुआ तो कुछ लोगों के बाल खड़े हो जाते हैं, उनका लहू एकदम गर्म हो जाता है कि नेहरू जी का नाम क्यों नहीं दिया। आदरणीय सभापति जी, मैं बहुत आश्चर्य होता है कि चलो भाई, हमसे कभी छूट जाता होगा नेहरू जी का नाम, और छूट जाता होता होगा, हम ठीक भी कर लेंगे क्योंकि वो देश के पहले प्रधानमंत्री थे। लेकिन मुझे ये समझ नहीं आता है कि उनकी पीढ़ी का कोई व्यक्ति नेहरू सरनेम रखने से डरता क्यों है? क्या शर्मिंदगी है नेहरू सरनेम रखने से? क्या शर्मिंदगी है? इतना बड़ा महान व्यक्तित्व अगर आपको मंजूर नहीं है, परिवार को मंजूर नहीं है, और हमारा हिसाब मांगते रहते हो। मैं एक बात को जानना चाहता हूं, मैं एक गंभीर विषय की ओर अब ध्यान देना भी चाहता हूं। महत्वपूर्ण विषयों को मैंने स्पर्श किया है, और आज देश में आर्थिक नीतियों की जिनको समझ नहीं है, जो 24 घंटे राजनीति के सिवा कुछ सोचते नहीं है, जो सत्ता के खेल खेलना यही जिनको सार्वजनिक जीवन का काम दिखता है, उन्होंने अर्थनीति को अनर्थ नीति में परिवर्तित कर दिया। मैं उनको चेतावनी देना चाहता हूं, और मैं इस सदन की गंभीरता के साथ उनसे कहना चाहता हूं कि अपने रिस्पेक्टिव स्टेट को जाके समझाएं कि ये गलत रास्ते पर न चले जाएं। ये भी दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण है, इतने महत्वपूर्ण सदन में कुछ लोगों का व्यवहार, कुछ लोगों की वाणी न सिर्फ सदन को लेकिन देश को निराश करने वाली रही। इस प्रकार की वृत्ति प्रवृत्ति के माननीय सदस्यों को मैं यही कहूंगा, कीचड़ उसके पास था, कीचड़ उसके पास था, मेरे पास गुलाल। कीचड़ उसके पास था, मेरे पास गुलाल। जो भी जिसके पास था उसने दिया उछाल। और अच्छा ही है, जितना कीचड़ उछालोगे कमल उतना ही ज्यादा खिलेगा। और इसलिए कमल खिलाने में आपका प्रत्यक्ष परोक्ष जो भी योगदान है, इसके लिए मैं उनका भी आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। विपक्ष के हमारे वरिष्ठ साथी आदरणीय खड़गे जी ने कहा कि हमने 60 साल में मजबूत बुनियाद बना रहे थे, ऐसा कल आपने कहा। और उनकी शिकायत थी कि बुनियाद तो हमने बनाई और क्रेडिट मोदी ले रहा है। लेकिन आदरणीय सभापति जी, 2014 में आकर के जब मैंने बारीकी से चीजों को बड़ी गहराई से देखने का प्रयास किया, फर्स्ट हैंड इंफॉर्मेशन लेने का प्रयास किया, तो मुझे नजर आया कि 60 साल कांग्रेस के परिवार ने, हो सकता है उनका इरादा मजबूत नींव बनाने का हो, मैं उस पर कोई टिप्पणी करना नहीं चाहता, लेकिन 2014 के बाद आकर के मैंने देखा कि उन्होंने गड्ढे ही गड्ढे कर दिए थे। उनका इरादा नींव का होगा, लेकिन उन्होंने गड्ढे ही गड्ढे कर दिए थे। और आदरणीय सभापति जी, जब वो गड्ढे खोद रहे थे, 6 दशक बर्बाद कर दिए थे, उस समय दुनिया के छोटे छोटे देश भी सफलता के शिखरों को छू रहे थे, आगे बढ़ रहे थे। जरा इतिहास उठा करके देख लीजिए, वो कौन पार्टी थी, वो लोग कौन सत्ता में बैठे थे जिन्होंने आर्टिकल 356 का सबसे ज्यादा दुरुपयोग किया। 90 बार चुनी हुई सरकारों को गिरा दिया। कौन है वो? कौन है जिन्होंने किया? कौन है जिन्होंने किया? कौन है जिन्होंने किया? इतना ही नहीं सभापति जी, एक प्रधानमंत्री ने आर्टिकल 356 का 50 बार उपयोग किया, आधी सेंचुरी कर दी। वो नाम है श्रीमती इंदिरा गांधी का। 50 बार सरकारों को गिरा दिया। उनका तो वो साल इतना अच्छा माहौल था कि पंचायत से लेकर के पार्लियामेंट तक उन्हीं की दुनिया चलती थी। इतना देश भी अनेक आशा अपेक्षाओं के साथ आंख बंद करके उनका समर्थन करता है। लेकिन उन्होंने इस प्रकार की कार्यशैली विकसित की, इस प्रकार का कल्चर विकसित किया कि जिसके कारण वे एक भी चुनौती का परमानेंट सॉल्यूशन करने का न कभी सोचा, न कभी उनको सूझा, न कभी उन्होंने प्रयास किया। हमारी सरकार की पहचान जो बनी है, वो हमारे पुरुषार्थ के कारण बनी है। एक के बाद उठाए गए कदमों के कारण बनी हुई। और आज हम परमानेंट सॉल्यूशन की दिशा में आगे बढ़ते रहे हैं। हम एक एक विषय को छू करके भागने वाले लोग नहीं, लेकिन देश की मूलभूत आवश्यकताओं को परमानेंट सॉल्यूशन पर बल देते हुए हम आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। तो खड़गे जी शिकायत कर रहे थे कि मोदी जी बार बार मेरे चुनावी क्षेत्र में आते हैं। वो कह रहे थे मोदी जी कलबुर्गी आ जाते हैं। मैं जरा खड़गे जी को कहना चाहता हूं, मैं आता हूं उसकी शिकायत करने से पहले ये भी तो देखो कि कर्नाटका में 1,70,00,000 जनधन बैंक अकाउंट खुले। 8 लाख से ज्यादा जनधन खाते खुले हैं। अब सभापति जी बताइए, इतने बैंक के खाते खुल जाए, इतना एम्पावरमेंट हो जाए, लोग इतने जागरूक हो जाए और किसी का इतने सालों के बाद खाता बंद हो जाए तो उनकी पीड़ा मैं समझ सकता हूं और बार बार उनका दर्द झलकता है। और मैं तो हैरान हूं, कभी कभी यहां तक कह देते हैं कि एक दलित को हरा दिया। अरे भाई, उसी इलाके की जनता जनार्दन है, उसने दूसरे दलित को जीता दिया। अब आपको जनता नकार दे रही है, आपको हटा रही है, आपका खाता बंद कर रही है और आप रोना यहां रो रहे हो। जैसे महात्मा गांधी जी कहते थे, श्रेय और प्रेय, हमने श्रेय का रास्ता चुना है, प्रिय लग जाए आराम कर ले, वो रास्ता हमने नहीं चुना है। मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी तो करेंगे, दिन रात खपाना पड़ेगा तो खपाएंगे, लेकिन जनता जनार्दन के एस्पिरेशन को चोट नहीं पहुंचने देंगे और उसके एस्पिरेशन सिद्धियों में परिवर्तित हो जाए और देश विकास की यात्रा को पार करे, इसके लिए हम काम करते रहेंगे। इन सपनों को लेकर के चलने वाले हम लोग हैं और हमने वो करके दिखाया कि हर घर को एलपीजी कनेक्शन देंगे। हमें मालूम था कि हम कर रहे हैं, हमें मेहनत करनी पड़ेगी। हमें मालूम था हमें धन खर्च करना पड़ेगा। हमें मालूम था हमें दुनिया भर से गैस लाना पड़ेगा। ये सब दबाव की संभावना जानने के बावजूद भी हमारी प्राथमिकता मेरे देश का नागरिक था। हमारी प्राथमिकता हमारे देश के सामने, हमने 32 करोड़ से ज्यादा परिवारों के पास गैस कनेक्शन पहुंचाए। नया इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर खड़ा करना पड़ा, धन खर्चना पड़ा। आदरणीय सभापति जी, इस एक उदाहरण से आप समझ सकते हैं कि हमें कितनी मेहनत करनी पड़ी होगी, लेकिन हमने आनंद के साथ, संतोष के साथ, गर्व के साथ इस मेहनत को किया और मुझे खुशी है कि सामान्य मानवी को उसका संतोष मिला। इससे बड़ा एक सरकार के लिए संतोष क्या हो सकता है। देश हमारे साथ है। कांग्रेस को बार बार देश नकार रहा है, लेकिन कांग्रेस और उसके साथी अपनी साजिशों से बाज नहीं आते हैं और जनता ये देख भी रही है और उनको हर मौके पर सजा भी देती रही। जब देश को आधुनिक होना है, नए संकल्पों को पार करना है, तो हम साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी के सामर्थ्य को नकार नहीं सकते। साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी के महत्व को हमारी सरकार भली भांति समझती है, लेकिन हम टुकड़ों में नहीं सोचते, हम टोकनिज्म में नहीं सोचते हैं। हम साइंस और टेक्नोलॉजी की तरफ से देश को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए हर दिशा में काम कर रहे हैं, सार्वत्रिक प्रयास कर रहे हैं, अनेक विध इनिशिएटिव ले रहे हैं और इसलिए बचपन में साइंटिफिक टेम्परामेंट डेवलप करने के लिए अटल टिंकरिंग लैब, ये वैज्ञानिक सोच के निर्माण के लिए स्कूल के लेवल पर बच्चों को हमने अवसर दिया। उससे थोड़ा आगे निकले बच्चा कुछ करना शुरू कर रहे।
So this was that second big speech in 24 hours. Yesterday was in the Lok Sabha, today was in the Rajya Sabha. Let's get a sense of what the big takeaways were from the most watched political team in the country. India Today's National Affairs editor Rahul Srivastav, editor Mausami Singh also has been in Parliament through the day today. Rahul, starting with you very quickly, comparing yesterday and today, what in your sense were the big takeaways. Today, it looked like Modi versus all was the big calling card, and he was much more combative as well.
Shiv, I think layers of a political counter. The yesterday speech very definitively, if in Lok Sabha, the Congress led by Rahul Gandhi tried to create a narrative on the Adani issue, though the Prime Minister didn't directly speak on it because most of the comments were expunged on that issue. The Prime Minister created a position in which he was targeting Rahul Gandhi. Rahul Gandhi, what he says, what he did, how the party he leads today, how it performed over the last few years. If you recall, he said a lost decade. Now today, if you see the difference, he compared 1947 to 2014, and he said lost decades. He attacked Rahul Gandhi in Lok Sabha. He attacked the Congress in the Rajya Sabha. He knows that there is an opposition coming together happening in Rajya Sabha. The numbers of the Congress and the opposition are much stronger. So what does he do? He attacks in the House of States. He attacks the Congress party and the coming together of political opponents by using what? 356. How Congress party used it 90 times, 50 times by Indira Gandhi, taunting DMK for the bringing down of the DMK government, Karnataka government, by the Congress party. CPM and the Congress allies in Tripura. Prime Minister Narendra Modi reminds the CPM that in 1956-57, Namudripad's government was dismissed by the Congress party led by Jawaharlal Nehru. Very clever use of, I think, very unadulterated, undisguised, camouflaged kind of a political attack. If Rahul Gandhi and the Congress have been talking about Rahul Gandhi's Hindu background, what he talks about the Nehru, I am attacked for not mentioning Nehru, but they don't use the Nehru surname. Why is it done it? Because if the Congress responds that the name actually comes from the Firoz Gandhi, then it will be in public domain that Firoz Gandhi was a Hindu, was a Parsi. I think it's a very clever political speech, but it's a no-holds-barred speech, which actually it shouldn't be happening in Parliament, because if all opposition is delivering political speeches and the Prime Minister responds politically, then eventually the very purpose of Parliament does get defeated. But in the end, he said, me versus all, and that's what the idea is. In Lok Sabha, he versus Rahul. In Rajya Sabha, BJP and the NDA versus the Congress. That's the political template he's trying to create for 2024.
You know, the idea of a noisy democracy was totally front and center, wasn't it, Mausami, in the House today? From beginning to end, literally, the Prime Minister's, speech had, the surround sound of the angry chants from the opposition benches. We do know that outside Parliament, there have been protests led by the Youth Congress in several parts of the country today as well. What's going to happen ahead? What does the road ahead look like? Is this whole Adani issue going to become a big traction calling card for the Congress? Are they going to make it bigger and scale it up?
Shiv, there is a famous idiom in Hindi, 100 sunar ki aur ek lohar ki. So the BJP would be going hammer and tongs about it, upbeat about the speech that the Prime Minister made in the upper house. I think it was way more aggressive. He doubled up the attack on the Congress party and tried to draw a wedge in the unity of the opposition, clearly outlining the contours of how the Congress, brought down many governments of opposition parties. So really I just saw a tweet by the Aam Aadmi Party and then a quick WhatsApp forward by the Congress Party. There's already a rally between who was more vociferous and more vocal in the well of the House as far as sloganeering is concerned. So the template for 2024 has been drawn. There you have the BJP has got a cue from the Prime Minister what the line of attack is going to be. It's all about, targeting the Congress party and drawing the wedge between the opposition unity. And for the opposition, it is all about, rallying to showcase the Janta at large that they are the champions of the public and they are the ones who are the lead opposition. So really, I really think that today's speech of the Prime Minister was more about, appealing to the masses after what he said in the Lok Sabha. He also,
Yes.
you know, the Congress, the BJP, you know, has really worked out the arithmetic. It really shows how the BJP does the homework. What was the feedback from yesterday's speech, and then the BJP and the Prime Minister, you know, making a completely aggressive and attacking speech there in the Parliament.
Mosmi and Rahul, stay with me because that political storm over Adani, and remember the Prime Minister hasn't even gone anywhere close to answering any of those questions so far, because as Prime Minister Modi spoke in the upper house today, the opposition continued non-stop sloganeering, as we just showed you. The opposition parties continued their demand to set up a joint parliamentary committee or JPC to probe the charges levelled against Indian business tycoon Gautam Adani. The opposition didn't stop there. Slogans such as Modi, Adani, Bhai Bhai, we want JPC kept reverberating in the Rajya Sabha during the entire duration of the Prime Minister's speech. The opposition also asked the Prime Minister to speak on the LIC and suspected scam claimed by the Hindenburg report.
Nothing will go on record. Honorable member.
Rahul, you know this phrase that the Prime Minister used, "Ek akela sab pe bhari." We all understand it here, but for the benefit of all our viewers everywhere else in the country, could you not only translate it but also give us the significance of what that means in the Modi context and what he was trying to say?
See, Shiv, the Prime Minister knows that over the last, I think, 8 years, there have been several attempts for an opposition to come together. There have been attempts in various shapes and sizes of some political parties in some regions getting together. Eventually, if we see the political template of this country, you have Narendra Modi versus the rest. Irrespective of who is standing against him, the idea is that it's Narendra Modi versus the rest. So in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, if you notice, much more than the electoral arena, you have got the opposition united. And that's what the Prime Minister is utilizing. He's trying to say that whatever he does is opposed by the political opponents. He has worked better, that's what he says, than what governments did since 1947 till 2014. And he is trying to do better, and that's why everybody is opposed to him. He says that I think it's a continuation of what he did in Lok Sabha. He has brought in that I have worked for 140 crore people. Pal pal unke liye jeevan khapa diya hai maine. That's what he said. That I've spent my entire lifetime for the people of India, for billions of India, compared to the charge when they say that you are with the billionaires. That's the line that Narendra Modi is trying to create, and that is why he says, I am standing alone today, fighting for the people, working for the people. That's a political template he's providing his cadres, his voters and supporters eventually as a political template. Because if Congress wants to raise corruption and helping Adani Group or billionaires, Modi is trying to create a template. He's pro-poor, working for the people as a Prime Minister, and that's why this coming together of politicians and political parties. I think these are the templates he has created at the start of the year. You've got 350 some odd days. I think this template is going to resonate continuously.
Okay, it's going to resonate continuously, and we've also seen how much the BJP and the Prime Minister relish the prospect of a personality clash, and so far it seems like the Congress has been sort of feeding into it, especially the last 48 hours. They've, fed very, very generously into that idea of a personality clash, building up Rahul Gandhi, making it look like a direct title fight between Modi and Rahul Gandhi, even though there are 350 days to go for that election. But before I come to you, Mosami, on the Rahul factor after all of this, I just want to play out for our viewers that direct attack on Congress Chief Kharge, where the Prime Minister said that people are rejecting the Congress and its politics of tokenism. Listen in, this was after a very combative Mallikarjun Kharge, President of the Congress Party, had taken direct pot shots at the Prime Minister.
मैं प्रधानमंत्री जी से पूछूं कि आप चुप क्यों बैठे? आप हर एक को डराते हो, लेकिन इनको क्यों नहीं डरा रहे? जो लोग नफरत फैलाने की कोशिश करते हैं, अगर आपकी नजर उधर एक तरफ गिरी तो वो ऐसा बैठ जाएगा, नेक्स्ट मेरे को टिकट मिलने वाला नहीं है, समझ के वो बात बंद करेगा। बोलेगा नहीं, लेकिन आप चुप्पी साधने के वजह से
मौन स्वीकृति
और आप मोनी बाबा बनने के वजह से ये परिस्थिति घटी।
2014 में आकर के जब मैंने बारीकी से चीजों को बड़ी गहराई से देखने का प्रयास किया, फर्स्ट हैंड इंफॉर्मेशन लेने का प्रयास किया, तो मुझे नजर आया कि 60 साल कांग्रेस के परिवार ने, हो सकता है उनका इरादा मजबूत नींव बनाने का हो, मैं उस पर कोई टिप्पणी करना नहीं चाहता, लेकिन 2014 के बाद आकर के मैंने देखा कि उन्होंने गड्ढे ही गड्ढे कर दिए थे।
Mosmi, final word from you. You know, we saw BV Srinivas, the Youth Congress, the youth wing of the Congress party mobilizing in a very familiar way on the Adani issue now. Where is Rahul Gandhi going to fit into all this? Where are we going to see Rahul Gandhi next? So far, he had headlined the entire yatra. You know, he was very prominent in parliament as well. What next? What role is Rahul Gandhi going to play?
So, Shiv, we've discussed the yatra earlier, and brand Rahul has really taken an image makeover as far as, you know, the Congress workers are concerned and the public at large is concerned. Now, that whether that was limited to just the Bharat Jodo Yatra, the big challenge will be for Rahul Gandhi to maintain that tempo, because somewhere from a reluctant politician, he's become a Padyatri and a Bharat Yatri, and you could see the elements as far as, you know, his learning from the experience is concerned in his speeches, in his mannerism, and the way he dealt with the political barbs from the BJP. So, for once, Congress does believe, even though many political critics would disagree, that they would want a battle between Prime Minister Narendra Modi versus Rahul Gandhi. Whether they win it or lose it, they want to preserve that brand. For them, it is about survival. Brand Rahul prevails and the Congress could survive, though the BJP definitely would feel just the opposite. But in the Congress, there is a belief now after the Bharat Jodo Yatra that if anybody can really lead the party and we can rally behind, it is Rahul Gandhi. So we will see Rahul Gandhi on the roads, on the streets, and we've already seen a precursor of that with the Mahila Congress and the Youth Congress. So the battle is now going to pan out on the streets as far as this entire Adani attack is concerned.
Thanks very much, Mosmi. Also, many things that were said about Nehru as well, have cut the Congress. Many reactions coming in. We'll be talking about that live at 7 p.m. as well. Rahul and Mosmi, thank you very much for joining me on this special edition of 5 Live, where we've decoded the Prime Minister's second speech. On the other side, right here on 5 Live, I've got a big news break for you. That big Chinese spy balloon managed to infiltrate the United States, gave the world's biggest superpower a big scare. The Chinese have said the US have overreacted, but what do those spy balloons have to do with us here in India? Well, quite a bit as it turns out. I've got a big news break for you coming up next. Stay with us.
Over 3 decades, Business Today has delivered news, views and analysis like no other, chronicling India Inc.'s journey through time. Now, at 31 years, Business Today presents the future. Mission 2047, Road to India at 100, with Indian industry's biggest stalwarts, and an exclusive interview with Google CEO Sundar Pichai.
Deepika Bhardwaj, a well-known activist, is now joining us. Deepika, I believe, in fact, that the pictures that you have accessed of this child is what you really shared with the media. Correct me if I'm wrong. What did you really see? Did you take these pictures by yourself? Tell us a little more about how this child is doing at this point in time.
Hi, Sneha. Good morning. Thank you so much for bringing this case to light. Yes, these pictures were taken by me. In fact, I'm the one who brought the case to light. Early in the morning yesterday, I got a call from a known of mine in Gurugram that he has seen this girl brutally thrashed, and if there is anything that I can do to save this girl. I immediately put a tweet out seeking for some rescue organizations that could rescue this child. And I did not know the state she was in. I had only heard on the phone from my known. When I did not get any response from any rescue organization or any leads, I reached out to Preeti Bhardwaj Dalal, who is the vice chairperson, State Commission for Women, who immediately took cognizance of the matter and put me across to the one-stop Sakhi Center in Gurgaon, Miss Pinky Malik, who was then very, very proactive. She immediately alerted the cops. The girl was rescued within hours from the home where she was working, and she was exactly in the same condition. Her entire face, there's no place on her body which is not bruised, Sneha. I went to the police station. I have personally gone and met this child at the hospital. She's getting treated right now, but she's in a terrible state. She's rescued and she's safe right now, but I have no words to explain the brutality to which she was being subjected to. And I think this was the extreme, but she was being beaten up every single day, what she told me, in the last 5 months. They did not give her a penny. This is an educated couple working with corporates in Gurgaon, and I really have no words on the insanity that I've seen on this child. And how can someone do this to such a young girl?
Mr. Pandey, can you explain to our audience what is going forward the disinvestment approach and philosophy going to be? The government has to be complemented for Air India. You also and other people in the government have spoken about why BSNL is not going to be disinvested. But for the audience, beyond the revenue receipts that you are penciling in from divestment, what's the big approach? Not many companies left to be sold and therefore rely on dividends and FPOs?
I think if you really look at holistically, out of the CPSCs, there are two streams of incomes that the government receives. One is, of course, the dividend. While they are, the government money is invested in them, there has to be a return, and which comes to them, you know, from profits, certain proportion comes in form of dividend. Now, of course, when we sell our equity, then it translates into disinvestment receipts upfront, and the current year dividend subsequently, and the subsequent dividends in future years, they are sacrificed. So it's in a way, you are upfronting those dividends by making a thing, and then this money is again reinvested, as you know, in capex and so on. Now, the strategy is a calibrated disinvestment strategy. It has two legs. One is that while we keep our value in our enterprises up and running, we have several listed companies, several listed banks in which millions of shareholders are also invested. Large institutional investors are there as well. So it's very important that the companies keep doing well, and the corporate governance and profitability, return on capital employed, and so on is looked after. Also related to that is also the capex. As you know, that there is a capex from the CPSC which has not been counted, what Somnathan has said, 10 lakh crore. 10 lakh crore is the government capex directly. 3.7 lakh crore additional is the capex, which is the grant which goes from the central government, and it helps create the capital assets. Additionally, 4.88 lakh crores, roughly about 5 lakh crores will be the capex from the CPSCs going forward. So if you really count the total capex, it's 18.5 lakh crores, which comes to about 6.2% of GDP, which is a very, very large sum.
Which is the highest in the world for
yes.
this year.
So some of it, which you said, about 4.88 lakh crores, comes from CPSC, from internal and extra budgetary resources. And internal resources includes after the dividend from profits, internal accruals.
The last 1 week in international headlines has been dominated by a white object high in the sky above the United States. It was spherical. It looked like nothing from the ground, and yet it was a giant object. That balloon that was sent by China wafting into American airspace is actually 200 feet in diameter and weighs many thousands of kilograms. It doesn't look like it, but I assure you, this is much less innocent than it looks. The fact is, the United States very dramatically shot down that Chinese weather balloon that was quietly spying over the United States. It splashed down into the Atlantic Ocean, and the United States has managed to find that balloon and fish it out, much to the irritation of China. But the question people here in India are asking is, if China has sent such balloons into the United States, why have they not sent such balloons into India? First, watch this report.
Has a balloon ever raised temperatures between two giant powers? Well, nobody said 2023 was going to be the tried and tested. And now, days after the US shot down a Chinese spy balloon, an airship that China insists had innocently strayed into American airspace, accusing the US of overreacting by deploying fighter aircraft to destroy it. Things have become more delicate now, with the US managing to recover the balloon from the Atlantic Ocean. What had simmered as friction between the two powers has exploded into a full-blown diplomatic confrontation.
What I can say is that this airship belongs to China and not the United States. This balloon is not American. The Chinese government will continue to defend its legitimate rights and interests.
A furious China has demanded that the balloon debris be returned to Beijing. But given the Top Gun treatment the US dished out for the spy ship, there's no chance of that ever happening. US agencies believe the destroyed balloon is part of an extensive surveillance program. As we speak, a forensic team of the FBI is studying the remnants of the balloon to gather more evidence of its clearly insidious nature and how best to track the next one. Also under investigation is whether the balloon was capable of relaying real-time data to Chinese platforms. The Chinese balloon may have looked small in the images thus far captured, but it's actually huge. Up to 200 feet high and carrying a surveillance payload the size of a small aircraft and weighing thousands of kilograms. The US and China have been locked in tense game of geopolitical chess that has intensified in waves. Most recently during former head of the US House of Representatives Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan and the ensuing military friction. The milestone destruction and recovery of the first ever Chinese airship in US airspace sets the stage for a fresh battle of nerves and raises questions for us here in India over just how much surveillance the Chinese are doing over our territory undetected. Bureau Report, India Today.
And a very justifiable question that we've been asking here in India is, if such spy balloons manage to, quote unquote, find their way into American airspace, what has stopped the Chinese from using them in India? And now for a big India Today news break by India Today's Ankit Kumar. As it happens, such balloons have in fact entered Indian airspace in the past. On January the 6th, days after the Andaman and Nicobar Command, India's only tri-service command, concluded a multi-domain tri-service exercise, an unidentified high-altitude balloon was spotted over the island capital of Port Blair. Pictures shared by locals over social media and published by a local news portal show eerie similarities with the Chinese spy balloon that recently floated over nuclear silos in the United States and was later shot down by an F-22 fighter jet of the United States Air Force. The size, shape, use of non-transparent material and solar panels are some of the visible common features associated with the two large floating objects, one over Andamans and one over the United States. Earlier, without naming a country, a senior US defense official confirmed that similar Chinese spy balloons have previously been spotted over South Asia. Now, considering the strategic location of the Andaman Islands, regular drills are conducted here by the Indian Navy with an aim to counter the growing Chinese influence in the Indian Ocean region. So, having a spy balloon over the Andamans is a cause for great concern. But we now know that the Chinese have been trying to use similar structures to spy on Indian military facilities and sensitive establishments. Precisely what these balloons look like. Like I was telling you a little earlier, viewer, these balloons are not small little balloons. In the images, it's easy to get fooled. It may seem like just, a balloon that may be about this big, but these balloons are actually enormous. They're huge balloons, about 200 feet in diameter. This picture, of course, is just representative. It doesn't look like this. It's a spherical white balloon, which is about 200 feet in diameter. And the payload, which is basically the equipment that it carries with its weight, weighs thousands of kilograms. According to the US media, up to 2,000 to 3,000 pounds. So basically, a very, very heavy piece of equipment being carried, which can only be basically solar panels, which provide power to the entire structure, high definition cameras and thermal imaging equipment to be able to see clearly, synthetic aperture radars for very, very detailed imagery of terrain, sensors which provide, temperature information, altitude information, positional information, which is very, very risky for the country being surveyed. This is a helium-filled balloon, 200 feet high, which gives it a huge amount of endurance in the air. And there is also believed to be some communication equipment that can relay data or images. We don't know whether it's in real time. That's a matter of investigation with the country that has sent the balloon, which, of course, as we all know, in this case is China. Now let's tell you a little bit more about these balloons and how high they can actually fly. These are high-altitude balloons. China claims that these are weather balloons, but the United States and virtually every other country knows the truth is far more sinister. Now, commercial aircraft fly at about 35 to 40,000 feet. Fighter aircraft can go up to 60 to 65,000 feet, but these spy balloons sent by China hover and float at up to 80,000 feet, far higher than even the highest flying United States spy plane, which is the U-2 Dragon Lady. So this is the kind of altitude comparison we're talking about. But this balloon, for various reasons, had floated to a lower altitude where it was intercepted by the United States Air Force using its most advanced fighter aircraft, an F-22 Raptor. I want to go across to our National Bureau Chief, Abhishek Bhalla, who's been tracking all developments regarding the story very, very closely. Abhishek, the United States has shot down one of those balloons. The FBI is very clear that this is part of a much larger extended surveillance program by China. India Today's Ankit Kumar has reported quite disturbingly that last month, an eerily similar balloon was spotted over the Andaman and Nicobar Islands at a time when there was a tri-service drill going on.
That's right, Shiv, and the alarm bells are ringing not just in the US but in other parts of the world as well. And yes, Ankit, scooped those images of the balloon over Andamans, and I worked on the story with him. And initially in the story that we filed, we just purely because of journalistic accuracy. We did not say that it's a Chinese balloon because obviously we were not sure. But there is vindication now that perhaps it was a Chinese balloon. There is a Pentagon report that says that similar balloons have been seen in South Asia. Clear corroboration of what Ankit found out. And the fact that this balloon was hovering over Andaman and Nicobar Islands soon after a tri-service military exercise makes the entire episode even more disturbing. Andaman and Nicobar Islands,
Yes.
of course, is a very strategic location as far as India is concerned. It's the only tri-service command that the Indian military has. It's the gateway for a lot of Chinese vessels that get into the Indian Ocean region.
Yeah.
And at a time when an exercise was happening, anything that was up in the skies was clearly more than mysterious.
It'll be interesting to know how the Indian government responded, if it did at all, because this was like Abhishek just said, over the Andaman Islands, which is chock-a-block with strategic facilities. Abhishek, thanks very much. We'll keep tracking that story, that big exclusive there by India Today's Ankit Kumar. Now, tensions obviously have escalated between the United States and China over that quote-unquote weather balloon. It was obviously their spying. The United States has made sensational allegations against China. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said China has violated the sovereignty of not just the United States, but of countries across 5 continents. This comes days after the US fighter jet shot down that Chinese surveillance balloon. The balloon was shot down after it traversed sensitive military sites across North America and became the latest diplomatic flashpoint between Washington and Beijing. Meanwhile, politics erupted in India over that Chinese balloon, taking a jibe at the Modi government. Congress spokesperson Shama Mohammed said that unlike America, India has a weak leadership to take on things like China. Keep watching India Today. That's a wrap on 5 Live. But coming up 6 p.m. Prime with Akshita, we're taking you straight to Turkey. The only channel reporting from the quake hit zone. Gaurav Sawant and Kirpal Singh report live. A big exclusive broadcast from Turkey comes up next.
शक्ति है और उसने सीधा डायरेक्ट बेनिफिट